Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome back to Saturday's Wrench.
Wrenching it up. Gonna wrench it up. Welcome to Saturday's Wrench. Wrench.
In this episode, I think what I want to do is clean up these rims. I gotta clean them up. I gotta buff them off just a little bit, get them ready to spray paint. So what I'm gonna do here, what I've decided to do is basically clear coat them with the spray can. The reason I've decided to do that is because the rear hub, you can see the rear hub here, and in the rear hub are these little rubber bushings. So when you clear coat, you need to stick the part that you're clear coating in the oven to bake it. Now the rubber is not going to stand up very well to the baking process with the clear coat, so one option is to remove the bushings. I started to, but then I realized that I was going to damage them. And then I realized that I would have to replace them. Now I looked them up online and they're hard to find, but you can find them. But they're expensive, maybe like 12 to 15 bucks each, I think, or something like that. Plus shipping and everything, because I live in Canada, they just gouge you. And a lot of places won't ship to Canada, so it's a little hard for me to find these. Not only that, behind these bushings are these little, you can see it in the back, but they're like little cap ends. So it's actually two pieces. So those are impossible to find. I couldn't find those anywhere. So, I started thinking like, how am I going to get these out? I started just being a headache, and a friend of mine just said, why don't you just spray them with paint, with clear coat? So I got this wheel gloss clear coat stuff, duplicate color. And so now what I'm going to do is clean these up. I'm going to clear coat them. Hopefully in this episode we're going to install the bearings. So I'm going to clean these up, and then we'll get on to spray painting and hopefully installing the bearings. Alright, as you can see, I've gone and masked off the inside. I just don't want to spray in there. So masked off the front too. I don't know, just don't want to spray in there. So I polished them all off. They should be good to go. Just going to need the last minute any last minute marks off, and then we'll get them on the driveway and we'll spray them. Okay, so I'm gonna use this Duplicolor wheel gloss clear coat, 8 to 10 inches away. So I'll do 2 light coats. Well, I'll do 1 light coat, wait 10 minutes, do another light coat, wait 10 minutes, and then do a medium coat. And then I gotta let it sit for like 7 days. So we might not get the bearings on today. I might have to come back next week and do them, but that's alright. We'll get to shaking this up, and then we'll get put on that first light coat. So I wasn't going to mask off the inside of there, but I thought it would be a good idea just to mask off. So I went and put some tape inside here and here, just because I don't want to mess with the tolerances for the bearings. So just make sure you mask that off. And then spray this can, and then we'll get the first coat on. Alright, so you can see the hubs here are just drying off. I went through 3 coats. I put 2 light coats on, and then and then 1 really heavy, kind of a heavy coat. So we're gonna let these dry for now, and then I'm gonna let them dry for about a week. So I need 7 days. So I have to come back next week and get them. But we'll let them dry. They are It is producing some kind of like a white. You can see a little bit of a white residue on there. I'm not too crazy about that. Hopefully that dries clear. We'll see. I don't know. I'm kind of regretting this process. I don't know. I'm hoping, like, you can see a little bit of the texture of the paint. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm not too crazy about it. So we'll see what it looks like next week when I come back, and then we'll take a look, and hopefully it's not too bad. I might have to start over, but anyways, yeah, so they're drying for now. So in the meantime, while those hubs are drying, I just have a bucket full of super clean. I'm just cleaning up some of the bolts. I gotta clean the axle bolt. I still need to change those grease fittings, so I'm gonna get onto that hopefully soon, but I'm gonna have to call it quit for now because I can't really put the bearings in the hubs while they're wet, so I can't handle them for another 3 hours. So we got to leave those hubs to dry for 7 days. So let's just skip forward 7 days. And I'm back. It's been 7 days. I even grew a playoff beard just to mark the occasion of a 7-day journey through editing time. Anyways, we're back in the garage, and we're back to see the hub here, and you could see it's been settling for 7 days, and it's still a little bit not as glossy as I'd like it to go. So it is cleared up though, so the paint has gone a little more clear. If you can remember, as I said before, it was when I first sprayed it, it was kind of white. It was leaving this white residue, which I really didn't like at all. But it actually cleared up over time. It cured onto the part here, but it's just really, it's got this dull texture to it I don't really like. So I'm gonna try and spray it one more time, give it one more coat, and then hopefully that gives it a little more of a glossy look. Right now it's just a little dull for my liking, but I figure if I give it one more nice coat, it'll make a nice and wet look, a nice wet glossy look to it. I'm just gonna go back outside right now, give it one more coat, and then I gotta let it cure for about 3 hours before I can put the bearings in. So I'll just go outside and spray it, and then I'll be back. So also, while I'm waiting for my hubs to dry and I have the parts in the Metal Rescue, I'm just cleaning up the points and tack cover. I went through with it was kind of rusted and pitted. I just sprayed it with WD-40 and I used this sanding sponge here, and this gave it a nice little clean. Now it did kind of scratch the surface of it. I'm not sure if you can see it there. I'll try and put it in the light. So this is the one I haven't done yet, and this one I have. I actually don't mind it. It looks kind of cool. It's giving it like a dull brushed metal look. I thought it was kind of cool. It might contrast with the shiny parts in the bike, and I don't know, it's cleaning it up really nice. So I'm just going to go ahead, do the other one, and then, yeah, I know, a bit of a random day today, but I might as well do stuff while I'm waiting for that thing to dry. I might also actually mount the swing arm, but we'll see. But so I'm just going to clean this one, and then, yeah. But the WD-40 and the sponge pad work really well together. I get that, takes the rust right off. Who knew? WD-40 and many uses. Alright, so I'm just going to do this other one and then just move on from there. So here we go, a finished product. I'm pretty pleased with that. It looks pretty good. Not super shiny, but you know, it'll stand out a little bit on the bike because I'm planning on painting the main part of the motor black. I have the covers a nice shiny aluminum, and these will be a nice contrast between that nice brushed metal look. So a little WD-40 and a 100 grit sanding sponge, and get some pretty good results. So pretty good results, and then these will be ready to go back on the engine when I get everything together. All right. So what do we have here on the bench is I've got the hub all spray painted now. It's nice and dry. It's been drying for 3 hours. The results are pretty good. I mean, a lot better than when I first started. When I first sprayed it, it was they were really dull, and I didn't really like the process. But it's after over a little bit of time, it's gone ahead and like cleared up, and the shine's kind of coming through. Now when you do this, be careful, because there was a few times when I oversprayed a few of the spots and it started to drip. Now so just a word of warning, when you're doing something like that, just really take your time and try not to overspray certain areas. But anyways, so that's ready to go. I'm gonna try and maybe install the bearings into it now, and then we can get it sorted out. That's pretty much all that's left to do on this hub. Over here I have a little container filled with Metal Rescue. So this is Metal Rescue, and I have my, like I showed you before, I have those exhaust flanges in here, and that's doing a pretty good job. It's been in there for, oh, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hours, and that's already starting to come up really nice. I just gotta brush that with a metal brush. I'll leave that in there for 24 hours, I think. And then But that's starting to look good. I'm really impressed with this stuff. So so that's just soaking away there. So just trying to get little things done while I waited for these hubs to dry. And now we're gonna try and get the bearings in. So I have the bearings in the freezer again, same process. Bearings in the freezer to contract them, and now I'll just use a little bit of heat on the inside the hub here, just to heat it up, just to try and expand it, and hopefully it'll slip in. So when you go online to goallballs.com, you can download this. Could download and print this instructions here, and it gives you like basically the proper way to install these bearings. So what we're going for, you could see in figure 1 here. So you can see in figure 1 here, it says this is the correct way to install. You can see on the left here how this bearing's snug with the hub. There's a little lip in there, and you want to get one of them snug. Flip it over and then just do the other side. You want to get that spacer in there and then snug the bearing to the spacer. So you can see the wrong ways to do it. If you get both of them on snug with the hub, you can see that the load is going to be pushing on the inner part of the bearing, and that's no good. Same with the other way around. You don't want the spacer sitting right in the middle between them, because then the load is going to be on the on the outside of the bearing and the inside, or so the two inside of the bearing. So that's not good. You want your load as equal as possible. So this is the correct way. We're going to try and do it. We're going to try and get the bearing in snug with the hub in here. I got to get it inside this lip, and you can see there's a little lip in there. You can see it right there. We're going to try and get one of the bearings snug with that, flip it over, put the spacers in, and then get the other bearing snug with those. I have my fichet here so I don't mess anything up. If you want to take a screenshot of that, basically just gives you the proper way to put the bearings in. You can see the spacer goes in, and there's this other little spacer here that goes in on the crank side, the chain side. So I'm just going to take my masking off here. There we go. The wheels, the hub's looking pretty good. I can't wait to get these spoked up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with this side. Actually, you know what? So I'm going to start with this side. I'll get the bearing snug with this little lip here. You can see that little lip there along here. I'll get the bearing snug with that, and then we'll flip it over, put the spacers in, and get the other bearing snug with the spacer. So I just have this heat gun here. My dad found this. Pretty nifty little toy. I just figure it's a little bit easier than the torch, so just like works like a little bit like a hairdryer, but a little stronger. So let's try and heat up the hub in the middle. So what I have here is the old bearing. So I smashed the shit out of this one trying to get it out. So I have the old bearing. I'm going to use this to smash in the new bearing. Alright, so we got the freezing cold bearing out of the freezer here, looking nice and new. I don't think it matters which way it goes. So we're just gonna stick this in, trying to get it as flush as possible. Now nice and straight. And if you any pressure at all, you want to apply pressure to the outer race only, not the inner race, okay? Just try and get it as flush as possible, and we'll get this other bearing. You know what? I think I'm just gonna use this plastic to nail it in here. It makes it nice, and that's going in pretty easily. So we got the first one seated. So that's seated against the hub. There's a little lip in there. Definitely make sure it's seated. Only applying pressure to the outer race here. Okay, now we're going to flip it over. And then we'll get our spacer. So you should have this spacer and this spacer. And according to the instructions, this main spacer goes in first. So you want that sitting as perfectly as possible. Then you see this shape of the spacer. You want to put this flatter, larger side in first. Give it a little heat again. Alright, so we got our other bearing here. Nice and fresh, nice and cold. So, again, doesn't matter which way it goes, it's both the same side. So I'm just going to line it up. So I just realized that this little piece actually fits inside this bearing here. So I'm just going to fit it in and then just get the bearing in there. And then we'll use the other old bearing and start smacking it in. Now, with this one, you want to just smack it in until just so that inner spacer is touching the other spacer. It's actually pretty good now. It was like moving around before, but it seems to be snug just. So let me just check on that. So make sure that spacer inside isn't moving around. You definitely don't want that little spacer, that long spacer inside, you don't want that moving around. So on that old bearing in here, this is why you don't throw these things away right away, because they're gonna help you put in your new stuff. So okay, so I got it. So there's not really any movement, there's no space. It's just nice and snug with that inner spacer in there now, and it looks pretty straight from these angles. So I'm gonna call that good. So we got the bearings installed. That wasn't too bad. You can see it still spins. Just looks nice and straight. I'm gonna call that good. So here's my front hub. I think I might have overpainted it a little bit, getting a little bit of a horrible texture on it. And on this side's pretty smooth, but I feel like after about a week, these air bubbles will come out of the paint. I'm pretty sure they will. They'll cure out of there. So make sure you don't paint in here, because you don't want to mess with your tolerances here, okay? So yeah, we'll start again the same thing. So this one has a seat here, and there's no seat on this side, which tells me that that's gonna sit against this. Here's the spacer for the front hub. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna seat the bearing into here. You can see the little lip right there. We're gonna seat the bearing into there. And then do the same thing with the front hub. That we did with the rear hub. We're just gonna flip it over, put our spacer in, and then snug the bearing to the spacer. So this is the drawing for the fichet for how the front one goes in. So you can see here, this spacer, you want to put this side to where the speedo goes. So the part that flanges outward, you want that towards the speedo side. So this should sit in there like this. Know what I mean? It's gonna go. Well, this will be like this. Will fit into this side like this. Get that nice and snug in there. All right, so here's the all balls bearings for the front hub, and they both have the same part number on them. I'm not sure if you can see that, but they have the exact same part number on them, and they look the exact same size. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that they are both the same size. And they look to be exactly the same. So these are interchangeable, so you can put them in whatever side you want. So I'm just going to stick this one in here, and that's already pretty snug. So I'm just gonna heat up the hub again with this nifty gun and get it in there. Try and feel it there and take a look from the back just to see if it's seated. Now again, we want that sitting flush in that little seat there. Bearing still moves really well. I'm gonna call that good. Let's grab our spacer and flip it over, and you want these smaller flange here. See, there's like this side is out more, and this side's like not as spread out. You want the smaller one. That's gonna go in and sit up against the bearing. And you could try put it the other way, but you'll know it's wrong because it won't fit. So just keep that in mind. So we're gonna put this one in here, and we'll put the other bearing on and get it flush with this little spacer. So you could see through you could see through to the bottom, and then you could kind of line it up. So just shine a little bit of light in there, and then you'll be able to line it up perfectly. Seated in the middle of this. Probably gonna knock it off with your hammering, but just try and get it as best you can. Try and keep that balanced in the middle. Just gonna take my punch and go around like a clock and try and work it in. Just sitting on the metal brace. Try not to get that rubber part. You don't want to hammer that blue rubber part there. Just the outer race only. Still got a little bit of movement. You hear it jiggling around in there? Just a little bit more. Just trying to keep it straight and then hammer it in. There's probably a way easier way to do this, but I'm doing my best, and I've never done this before. Looking from the side angle straight on, it looks to be pretty flush in there, but I'm just gonna give it a little more snug to the spacer because I don't want that moving around too much in there. Alright, so I think I fucked it up. Oops, the bearing, it's not spinning. I've hammered it in too much. There's too much of a load on the inner races. And now nothing's spinning, so I'm gonna have to get these pulled out. I can't stress enough. I mean, you guys are learning from me. I'm a little frustrated right now, but that was my bad. I punched it in. I took this one in a little too far on the outside. There was a little bit of play there. I was nervous about that, but I guess that was probably normal. So now I've punched it in, and there's just too much pressure on this inner race here, and you can even see it's popping out a little bit. So lesson learned, don't punch them in too much, or get someone who knows what they're fucking doing, because it's clearly fucked that up. So I'm gonna have to get this fixed now. It's gonna take me a lot of time to get that out. It's gonna cost a little bit more money than I want to spend, so be careful when you're doing it. You can screw this up. They're a bitch. Like, I can't even get these out. There's nothing for me to punch out. I need a bearing extractor tool, and I don't have one. So this is on the back burner for now. I'm gonna have to get it sorted out. Hopefully they can remove the bearing without damaging it, and then I'll get it put in properly. So I'm gonna have to take this to a mechanic. Oh well. Anyways, all good. Just moving on. We still have our back one, and that's fine. This thing's moving pretty good. It's not too bad at all, and they look pretty flush in there. Everything's good. I'm gonna go ahead and get the retainer and then put in the new seal. So a kit comes with the two bearings and the seal. So we'll just fit this in, and then the flat side goes inside the little dust seal. We should be able to just push this right in. Alright, so it's hammered that in. Like, just goes in the back of this cover. Cover then just screws back in. So this is a nifty little tool from Motion Pro. I think it was only like $5. Pretty good. You don't have to use your goddamn needle nose pliers to get this in anymore, but what it does is has these little prongs and it just fits right in there. Now you can turn it, so you just drive it with a socket. So there you go. So now my bearing still moves. It's nice in there, nice and snug, and tickety boo. Now we can get ready to put the spokes and stuff and everything on this bad boy. So that'll be the next step. I might have to save that for another video, but we got the bearings in. Alright guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. We got the rear hub at least done. The bearings are moving. We got the retainer in there. This is ready to get laced up, but I'm gonna have to cut it short today because I have to go now. Always feels like the clock just runs really fast when you're working on this stuff. Just a little recap. I have my exhaust flange components in sitting in Metal Rescue. I have my other bolts for the front fork. I'm just getting those ready for, hopefully we'll be getting the forks together really soon. So I'm just getting all the bolts and everything cleaned up just to put that back together easily. I screwed up the front hub. I'm gonna have to take that to a mechanic maybe, or find someone with a tool now to extract the bearing back out. Kind of shitty, but I mean, hey, now you guys know how hard that stuff is. I mean, it was like a millimeter maybe tolerance. I should have just left it alone. It was in there snug enough, but that's okay. I'll get that sorted out. So that'll be next, getting that front hub sorted out. I have my back hub ready. Get the front hub sorted out. Then we can get these wheels finally laced up. But the next episode is going to be putting the engine back together. I might just try and seal the bottom cases, get those all back together, and we'll get that going. So nothing too crazy today, but we got a lot of work done. I mean, this is all necessary stuff. So I'm just going through all the stuff, and hopefully, I mean, next episode will be the engine. So that one's going to be a little bit better. So stay tuned for that, and we'll get those, get the front hub all fixed up, and we'll get these wheels laced up soon. So that'll be coming up on Saturday's Wrench. So keep it locked. The engine's going to be next. Next, we're going to be taking it home. We're going to be getting this engine back together. I can't wait to put this engine back together. I can't wait to show you guys all the parts and stuff that came from Bortec. Everything is looking amazing, and I can't wait to get those components back together on that engine. So that'll be coming up on Saturday's Wrench. So keep it locked. Please like and subscribe, guys, and show some love, and thanks everyone for your emails and your support in your comments, and I really appreciate it. And I just want to shout out to my boy Dylan. What up, son? He's super nice guy, contacted me personally, and I love getting your emails and your thanks, and I'm glad you guys are digging all this stuff. So thanks for watching, thanks for the support, and please come back again, because this bike is just getting fun. We're getting the engine back together. We're gonna put everything back together soon, and I really appreciate you guys supporting. So stay tuned, and I'll be back again.
Wrenching it up, gonna wrench it up. Yeah, wrenchity roo, wrench, roo.